Welcome to the Great Canadian Piggy Bank, helping Canadian parents raise money-smart kids. Today, we're going to dig into a question that's on every parent's mind right now. How do we raise money-ready kids in a world that feels so uncertain with climate change, AI changing the landscape, or our kids not being able to afford a house? I'm joined by Bruce Sellery, the host of the Moulala podcast, author of 2 books, financial columnist for CBC, and a nationally respected voice on personal finance. Welcome, Bruce, to the show. I am really excited to have you here today.
It is ooh la la with an M. So you have to channel your inner Parisian who's had a drink or two and give it the extra ooh la la.
I love it. Welcome. Okay, so I'm going to kick off with a really easy question just to ease you into this whole conversation.
Ready.
When you think about the financial world our kids will inherit with inflation rising, climate-related costs, and how AI is going to impact jobs in ways that we can't even imagine, what keeps you up at night as a financial expert?
Nothing keeps me up at night. In terms of the big picture, nothing keeps me up at night. But as it relates to the bigger picture and all of those things that you referenced, I am so optimistic about the future. I'm not concerned about any of those things.
Well, we're done then.
Yeah, we're done.
We're done.
I will tell you why. History is really helpful here. And I think this is a really hard context for people to summon given the chaos of our world today. But here's one way in. My parents were born in 1936 in the heart of the Great Depression. Then it was World War II. Then it was the Cold War. I was born in the 70s, so I lived through the arrival of the internet, which was going to change everything for the worse. September 11th, a number of stock market crashes, and a pandemic. So when you look in the fullness of time, we are an extraordinary species as humans. Life is hard for humans. It always has been hard for humans, but it isn't any harder today than it was in the past. And people lose perspective, parents lose perspective. And what we say at Credit Canada, right? Like Credit Canada, we counsel 10,000 people a year who have debt they can't manage. And we are holding 2 truths in our hands at the same time. First is a deep, deep, deep empathy for the circumstances that our clients bring to us when they pick up the phone and call, and a deep and profound and unwavering belief that there is hope. There is always something to do. So more than just not being kept up at night, I am so hopeful and excited about the future that we are living into, even given all the things that you mentioned.
That's amazing. So not everybody feels the same way as you.
Most people don't feel the same way. Actually, may ask you in a text after this is aired if he was high. Like, was he actually on drugs when you interviewed him? And the answer is no.
Okay, so some parents do feel paralyzed by this, and then because the future feels unpredictable for them and for their kids. Yeah. So how do you help navigate them through this unpredictability?
Yeah. Focus on your circle of control. So this is a old concept of the concentric circles that we find ourselves in, all humans find ourselves in. So there's our circle of influence and there's our circle of control. And then outside of both of those is this massive world of things we cannot influence and cannot control. And these are all the things that you've talked about: climate change, AI, the job market, housing and affordability, a living wage, all these very real things. What are the things that we can control? When I ask people to ground themselves in what they can control, they have an almost immediate exhale of breath because they're trying to hold the weight of the world, and they don't need to hold the weight of the world. So really, what's within your circle of control that's most critical? Living within your means. Is that hard to do these days? 100%. Can you control that? Yeah, you can. Because you can control the lever of your income to a certain extent, and you can control the levers of your expenses. Much of that we don't want to control. It serves us to absolve ourselves of that responsibility. There's a whole litany of people, a whole list of people we can blame. But when we're done that, when we let that kind of peter out and think, what can I control? There is so much that we can control and so much more that we can influence. So let's focus on those things.
Okay, so you think it's living within your means is the thing that parents can control at this moment.
Yeah, 100%. And there are periods in time when they really can't because they've lost their job, they've got
Mhm.
divorced, they've got a significant health issue. There are periods of time when that is literally impossible and they go into debt and all those sorts of things. But over the fullness of time, it is possible, and people have been doing this since the beginning of time, living within their means. Not, two steps forward, one step back, all that. And what we have to deal with is what society presents today in current times, that is an infinite number of things to want and a much more accessible way for us to pay for the things that we cannot afford. So let's use a simple example. We take many things for granted. Being able to eat out like once a month, having a streaming service. Those are wants, they're not needs. And so we've lost some of our rigor on what is a need and what is a want. I am saying that we need to be ruthless with ourselves in terms of living within our means and what that actually translates to in our very personal circumstances.
Agreed. I mean, I was in making video games for 25 years. It's an incredibly unpredictable industry. It was very highs and lows. We're going through a major low right now. One thing that I've always taught myself is to create an emergency fund, because you don't know if you're going to lose your job. And it has nothing to do whether you're great at your job or not. It's just the way the industry goes. So how do you then teach kids about saving for emergencies without it sounding like fear mongering
Yeah.
or doom and gloom?
And why are you concerned about it sounding like fear mongering? I'm not concerned about that. There are lots of things I fear monger with my child about. You vape, and the world is going to end for you. So I'm not concerned about that. But what I love about your question is you're highlighting one of the core elements of teaching our kids about money. It is about knowledge, it is about skills, and it is about values. And every parent has a different values. In some families, education is the number one thing. In some families, living your best life is the number one thing. In some families, activities are critical. In some families, paying off the mortgage is critical. So I think that's an important thing to be cognizant of. And in some families, having a real value around saving for emergencies, it's more important than anything. So let's just remove any morality about that or right or wrong about that. To me, it boils down to living within your means, as I have said, and that includes saving for lots of things. New technology, a vacation, education, and yes, emergencies. But there's too much simplification and too much mom and apple pie and too much drink 8 glasses of water a day about emergency funds. What we need to, I think, frame it is, what's the fund, the emergency fund that I need based on my circumstances? So let's see a continuum here. You've got a 2-income family in which both of those people work in a government job. They've both got defined benefit pension plans and their house is, half paid off. Their need for an emergency fund is completely different than a single parent in the gig economy. It's just like a completely different world. So there's a level of thought that would go into what's the emergency fund, because where a lot of people shut down is they hear these benchmarks and they feel like failures, which
Totally.
we don't want people to feel like failures.
No.
I see one of our jobs as parents and as human beings on this planet is to wake up and more days than not, we feel empowered. That's our job. So how do we feel empowered? Well, we've got a plan of action. We've got a context for our emergency fund. Let's build that. Now, in terms of talking to our kids about this, bring them into the conversation. So when our car has an issue, I talk to Asher about it. We talk about these things. It's going to cost this amount of money. Great. What do you think we should give up to get a new car? Do you think we should cancel vacations? Should we cancel all of our streaming subscriptions? What should we like live on bread and water? What do you think? And then Asher will be like, I want it all. Of course you want it all, and I do too, and I want a pony, and it's actually a unicorn, and I want to,
Totally.
So I think engaging them in the conversation is a really helpful way for them to A, see that these things happen and they have a cost, and B, that there are trade-offs that we all need to make as families in order to cover those kinds of things.
So then a lot of kids these days, young adults in particular, they have a lot of side hustles, they have multiple jobs. Does that actually set them up better for financial resilience? And should they continue to do this in their adult lives?
Yeah, I don't know about whether or not they should do it in their adult lives. People have side hustles because of interest, passion projects. They have side hustles because they literally need that money to pay the rent. It is a way for young people to learn what they like and what they dislike. So having a bunch of jobs, super helpful to say, yeah, I like this, I don't like that. The second enormous benefit for having jobs and different jobs is to connect earning with spending. That's what it feels like to pull a 10-hour shift. Okay, and the money I got was $160. Got it. So do I want to spend my $160 on a pair of jeans, a concert ticket, a trip, or do I want to save it until I've got even more? That connection and having it be visceral for our young people, like a deeply felt connection, it's invaluable because for the most part, they just take the food out of the fridge and they go up to the room and they have no relationship to what it takes to run a household. And so jobs are really, really important for those reasons. And in the economy in general, are we going to see a continuation of gig work and short-term contract? Yes, that's the economy. That's the way that that's going to go. So sure, there's some experience there, but I think those other two life lessons are just absolutely invaluable for young people.
So then I completely agree. Based on everything you've seen, what is a skill a teen can learn today that's going to give them more earning flexibility or more earning potential in the future?
Customer service. Customer service. How to understand other people and what they need. And you can do this as a server in a restaurant or a bus person. You can do this in a retail store. These are really hard jobs. They're hard because people are horrendous sometimes. They're hard because you don't make a lot of money sometimes, but so critical. And, I tease about how I pay no attention to AI. I have a deep respect for and focus on technological change and a concern that it is going to wipe out jobs. But there's no question that AI is going to wipe out jobs, probably tens of thousands. There's no question. But with all of these advancements since the industrial age, we've found our way through. It has been difficult, but the invention of the motor car and the creation of the assembly line didn't lead to unemployment of 50%. So I think that's one where it teaches you how to work with people. Customer service teaches you how to work with people. And that's a critical skill, perhaps more critical because we're learning it less so in the world today, given our screens.
Okay, so then in your book, Moolala, Why Smart People Do Dumb Things with Their Money, you talk about building financial practices that can withstand uncertainty and change. So how can parents teach that to their kids, whether it's through a budget or how do they get them to financially adapt when life changes course?
Yeah. We have a sustainable spending model that we talk about a lot at Credit Canada. Is instead of a crash diet, it's developing a way to live that has you live your best life in a way that doesn't, create a ton of debt for you. So if you picture the person in your life who has the healthiest relationship with food and exercise, they probably don't have, it's not like a big deal for them. They just kind of don't eat chips at every meal and they exercise every once in a while. They've just got a way that has that work for them. And I think that's my aspiration for all Canadians, is that they just find a way to spend sustainably. The way to do that is it's called the ABC method: analyze, brainstorm, change. So you're analyzing what's coming in and what's going out, and the truth will set you free. Then you brainstorm ways to either increase income or cut spending, and you're not committing to anything. You're just brainstorming like, okay, what if I got a job at another company and made 10% more? What if I took on a side hustle? What if I rented out a room in my house? So you're brainstorming. The third step is I'm going to commit to 2 or 3 changes that will make a difference for me and my family. So often there's all this stupid advice about the latte factor. Stop drinking your coffee, or, do things that I would never do. And I'm Canada's favorite personal finance expert. I'm not doing that, right? I'm teasing. I mean, I am.
I didn't put that in your intro.
I know. You can add it after in post-production. So spend on what those priorities are. And what I would take out of my spending is not what someone else would take out, because they're a foodie and they love it. And they would never buy ground beef. Are you kidding? It's flank steak or nothing. So that's great. This is what has us be human beings, and we're unique and we're all different. And you do you and I'll do me. And let's all just find a way for us to live in these crazy times in a way that will work over time.
Yeah, I agree. I do. I get that freedom every Friday. This is so nerdy, but I love doing our budget every Friday and I list it all out.
Oh my God.
I love saving. I love being
Yeah,
under budget. But
sure.
then my husband went in and did a horrible thing. So what he started doing at the top is every month that money we saved, he put into more money for vacation.
Amazing.
It's so upsetting for me because I want to save, but
Yeah,
I want to
yeah,
be under budget. But now
yeah,
in his mind, he's like, oh, I'm just getting more money for vacation. I'm like, this is not the point.
yeah. I'm going to share something sacrilegious, given what I do for a living. I do not budget.
What?
No, I don't budget. I think it's a total waste of time. Sheer and utter waste of time. But why we are able to not budget is because we live sustainably. So I don't think about booking travel. I don't think about those things because we've always lived below our means. Now, how can I be innovative to have what I want and not have it cost the moon?
Agreed. Okay. You talk about a lot of the common mistakes that people make in your book. So, what's the most common mistake people make when their expenses suddenly change? And how can parents prepare their kids to avoid it?
They don't adapt. So when your circumstances change, people have a really hard time adapting because there is this lifestyle to which we have become accustomed. And I don't mean like the Kardashians, but if you lose your job and you were accustomed to being able to go out as a family for dinner once a month or whatever, that's a really hard thing to change. So, I think if you've got a circumstance in which your financials, either income or expenses, suddenly change, you need to get that credit card out of your wallet. You need to delete those numbers from every shopping platform. You need to remove mobile tap because you will need to make spending really hard. And we know this is a data point I repeat all the time. When you spend with credit cards, you spend on average 20% more than if you buy with cash. So if you're finding it hard to live within your means, go cash only. It is a complete hassle. It is like the most annoying thing, but you will spend less money. It is just because it's more difficult, right? So you want to make the thing that is hard for you to manage in terms of your own self-control, you want to make that super difficult. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so then if you can give parents one tip for raising financially adaptable kids, what would it be?
Consider that money is a tool. It is a tool for their lives. And as parents, we teach our kids things all the time. So the earlier that we can get money into the hands of our kids, the better, where they have agency about what they spend it on and what it feels like to be at the till and add up your purchases. And the cashier says, that'll be $22.75. And the kid's like, I only have $20. And you don't save them. You just let them determine what they're taking out of that basket so that they can come in under $20. So teach them how to use money as a tool. It's one of the most critical tools you could ever teach them to use. And here, let me just add what is probably going through the minds of some of your listeners is, yeah, but I'm not good at that. Learn together, and maybe you'll learn how to use money more effectively as a tool. Let's remember that we add so much drama and upset around using money as a tool. It's like, I'm not good with money, therefore I'm a bad person. Therefore, just park that noise to the side. You're just not good at it. So admit you're not good at it and start learning, listen to all the episodes of this podcast, read some personal finance books, and get better at it. You don't have to be an Olympian in using money as a tool. You just have to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so then what, and I think you actually just hit on it, but maybe you have something different for listeners. So for listeners who feel behind in their own money resilience, what's one small change they can make this week that their kids will notice and learn from?
Practice delaying gratification.
Great. Yeah.
So we used to do this by doing something called browsing without buying, which I invented. And I invented it because you're a parent, you know what it's like to take a kid to a store. They want everything. The discipline, and you have to be ruthless about this, is we're not buying anything. And then we're getting in the car and we're leaving. And pretty soon, the dopamine that comes with that, it's diminished. So they don't actually really want to go to the mall anymore because it's not fun. Because we're not buying anything, so it's less fun. But that takes practice. And Given that there is an infinite number of things to want and the easiest time in our history to buy the things that we don't need, you have to build up some resilience for that. It's like exposure therapy. Browsing without buying and practicing delaying gratification, your kids will see that. It will be hard for them, it will be hard for you, but it will serve them and serve you in terms of your financial well-being, but also your emotional well-being, so that you alter your self-concept and prove to yourself that actually you're reliable to be someone who lives within their means.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, I hate shopping, so you just described my hell of
Yeah.
knowing that I then had to go back to the shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it reminds me of the marshmallow test for kids,
Yes.
right? This has been some awesome ideas that you've brought. And I know it's going to make the listeners really think. So thank you so much for joining us today, Bruce.
It was totally my pleasure. I love parents. I love being a parent. And I think anything that we can do to support people in this regard is time well spent. So thank you for your leadership and for inviting me on your show.
Okay, Bruce. So here's what I'm taking away from our conversation. When the future feels unpredictable, focus on our circle of control and influence. Also, that showing them how to live within their means and practicing delayed gratification will give them the confidence and the resilience to navigate an unpredictable world. These have been really great tips today. So for everybody else, please subscribe and share this podcast with other parents. I'd love to hear from you. What topics around raising money smart kids would you like us to cover next? I'm Christi Rae, and this is the Great Canadian Piggy Bank, helping Canadian parents raise money smart kids.